And here's my plug for schooling. Because I think one of the big things that we all in the industry kind of lament eventually, once you get to where like my friends and I are at this point in our careers, where we're like, I didn't need to go to school. I wasted, quote unquote, however much money on
a lot less back then.
Yeah, a lot less back then. At whatever university you went to. I went to NKU. And I didn't need to do that because no one asked when I interview for a job where I went to school, what my GPA was, what classes I took.
Which is true.
And that may be true for probably a lot of
it is becoming
businesses.
Now. Didn't used to be.
But what I can say is 18-year-old Tim could not do what 22-year-old Tim did, because 18-year-old Tim didn't know how to survive.
Here's my question on that.
Yeah.
Do you have to pay money and go to university to become that, though?
No.
See, here's my pushback, because I did it very different.
Yeah.
I went to NKU for a year, then went out and traveled working, and then came back and went back to morning classes. I want to finish my degree.
Right.
But I spent 5 years working.
And I think that that's great, because I do think that one of the things, especially in our industry is not an academic industry. It's a trade. Grip and electrics are basically your electricians and your construction work, and we have a construction department,
Trades.
but like our trade jobs. So you don't need an education to go there. You don't need an education to be a producer or an accountant, because really I'm a bookkeeper.
Yeah, you said you don't even know math.
Yeah, I don't really know math.
And now you're a production accountant.
Yeah.
Right?
So it's like I just know how to add numbers and basically read an invoice that says you owe this much money, and I know how to ask questions if that invoice doesn't match what we thought we were going to spend.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just like data entry.
However,
but I think what helped me with education was it gave me a breeding ground to fail, and to fail hard that no one saw in the bubble of a university. And so I was afforded, and this was, again, because I chose this, I sought it out, opportunities to, I hosted a television show that was on NKU's cable access station. I worked with the radio station when they would have guests come in running cameras to like musicians that would do like in-studio concerts. I'd run cameras with that. I'd, helped create like a TV show on like the like public Northern Kentucky public access group. And so it was like all of those things were things that my peers at school didn't necessarily do, or maybe they helped, but just kind of was like doing it for fun. Whereas I was doing it because I wanted to learn everything I could about the process before I had to actually do it. And so I was able to kind of, make a lot of mistakes and shoot a lot of things that were not beautiful. And, now I don't really do any of the labor of shooting or editing or anything like that, but I know how to do most of that. And that's something that when you get into real life, you don't necessarily always have that opportunity. So I know I'll never be an editor. I know I'll never be a camera operator. But I know the basics. So when it comes time to produce, which is ultimately what I want to do, I know the very basics of that job, and I'll never tell them I know what they do or how they do it. But I know the basics enough to know when someone is pulling my leg, when someone's trying to get something that I don't want. But also, I know enough to know their language, to speak to them. And that was something that one of my theater professors actually taught me, was learn enough to speak their language. You don't have to know everything. I don't have to know about all the lights and, what the power they need and what this does and that does and the kelvins and all of that. But if I know enough to know a little bit of their lingo and I can talk their lingo, then we can talk it out. And then they can reason with me why they need what they need. And it's not just like, oh, I need like a 10K and a 20K and an HMI and this, that, and the other. And then I just go, okay, sure. And then get the bill, and it's like thousands of dollars more than I had.
So here's the question about education. Because I think my opinion is, on what I'm seeing in the world, education is evolving how that's happening. And I don't necessarily believe that it needs to happen in the bubble and the vacuum that we used to call schools and universities. Because now, the things that you just talked about, you can go to YouTube.
Sure.
And learn any of that stuff, and it doesn't take 16 weeks to do it.
Yeah.
And so then the question is, what I really believed you've learned from 18 to 22, if it was that traditional time frame, I believed you learned how to deal with people.
Yeah.
Because the stuff you're talking about, then the other pushback to traditional education is that whether it should be free or it shouldn't, there's nothing in this world free. Someone's paying for it.
Right.
Right? We're taking resources. That's not even the debate. I'm not opposed to it, but, you know, there's a lot of conversation that has to happen around what's that system look like.
Mm-hmm.
But in my day job, even though we're sitting here during the day, the thing I do to put food on my table and roof over my head, it's becoming more media all the time, but it was in real estate. And I look around and the same things that you're talking about basically what you did in the business world, you got to know your product.
Yeah.
That's what you did, right? You got to know what you're doing, what you're selling. But what I find so many people that are selling real estate with me now, it's not what they went to school for.
Right.
Right? And so you put your head down and stayed in this, I don't even call it a bubble because it's big, but you stayed in this area. So the things that you did learn from 18 to 22, you've been able to expand on them and go deep, and you're still in the arena.
Yeah.
I don't think many of us at 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22, our full frontal lobes, they say, aren't even developed until we're 25.
Yeah.
I don't think the majority of humans know what they want the rest of their professional life to be.
Yeah, and that's
Right?
always been a struggle for me
Yeah.
to like wrap my head around that, because I've known it's fluctuated a little bit, but basically since high school, what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I found what I love doing, and I was like, I want to do that. And then knowing that it's a career path,
Yes.
as hard as it is, I said, well, I want to do that. So
Yeah,
I
kudos.
have to do what I want to do.
Yeah, kudos to you.
Yeah, thank you.
And so I think that that clarity didn't show up for me and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
Some people know. Like a lot of times it's family-based.
Mm-hmm.
If someone was a physician, if someone was an attorney, if someone was an engineer. And I don't think that's necessarily great either.
Yeah.
It's like, is this the thing I did? This is what you're going to do. But a lot of those things are influenced as we're growing up. But so many people don't have that direction,
Yeah.
right? And I think that's the conversation that we're not having around the expense of education. Because doctors don't have a problem paying for it.
Yeah. And I think with that, it certainly is like if you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah.
don't go to college.
Yeah, see, that's the tough conversation.
And I think that that's what
That's what college used to be.
that's what college used to be, and I think that that's what our parents, my age parents, thought
Yeah.
and told and did, and it was like, you have to get into college. You
Came from a good place.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately wasted a lot of people's potential to find out what they wanted, and wasted a lot of money that either the parents paid or the students had to take out in debt. And that's kind of where we are now, as it's like we as a society, while I think college did great for me,
Yeah.
I think there are also film schools that are more trade schools than universities that cost a lot more money, that you can kind of do that training in.
Yeah.
And then also, if you're driven, there's plenty of resources. The books that I used in school are available to anyone to purchase. And, you can kind of, do YouTube University or whatever.
But you got to take the initiative.
But you have to take the initiative, and that's very hard,
Yeah.
especially if you don't know what you want to do.
Why is taking the initiative hard?
Because
Just in general.
it's work, and you don't get paid for it.
But that's where we learn.
Yeah,
Because no one's going to pay us to learn usually.
right. And I think that what we've been conditioned to do is to find what pays us, and then chase after the dollar. So
They
many
get caught
people,
in a trap.
yeah, are convinced that they have to make X amount of dollars to be happy.